Hey guys, Gord Gainey here from Taylor Fluid Systems, coming at you with a tutorial video for controlling an FHV7 camera using Sysmac Machine Automation Controller, or Mac as you will, via Ethernet IP. So guys, the first thing we're going to talk about is the network setup. This is very simple, basic setup. You have an Ethernet switch in the middle. Our FHV7 is connected to the switch. Our Sysmac Machine Automation Controller is also connected to that same Ethernet switch. And then in order to perform all the setup, we have to have our computer connected to this switch as well. And they all have to be on the same IP range, as you can see. Okay? Okay guys, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump right into the FHV launcher remote support tool. We're going to choose the camera that we have already initially set up. If this is your first time and you've just unboxed the product, I would refer you to the manual to initially set up. So we're going to go Tool. I'm going to click System Settings. Then we're going to go to Communication, and we're going to click Ethernet. For the FHV7, we want to set the address setting to, and we want to have the IP address in the same address range as our machine automation controller. And then we'll need to be on the same subnet mask. And if you have a gateway, you can set this up as well. Sometimes that's not necessary. Another point worth noting here is after you change this IP address, you will need to ensure that your computer is on this same IP range as well. Otherwise, you may have trouble connecting. So it's just something to keep in mind. So we're going to close this dialog. And then we're going to click Data Save here. Save Settings. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and do a system restart. Okay guys, so my camera has rebooted and I have went ahead and restarted my FHV7 remote support tool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up the field bus type. So again, we're going to go to Tool, then System Settings. We're going to go to Startup Setting. And under there we're going to go to Communication. And down here you can see we have field bus. So mine is already set up for Ethernet IP. Likely if you get this and you just unbox it, it's going to be set to off. Or maybe you have the EtherCAT module. But we're going to go ahead and select Ethernet IP. And as you see here, setting is applied after save data and reboot. So we'll click Apply. We're going to click Close. Then we're going to do the data save again. And again, Function, System Restart. Okay? And once that reboots, we'll get back to it. Okay, so everything has rebooted and restarted again. So we're really going to get into the meat of this now and start with the setup of the Ethernet IP configuration. So we're going to go to Tools again and then System Settings. We're going to come down to the Communication section and select Ethernet IP. So I'm not going to explain every single detail on this page. I just want this to be a guide as to how to set things up. Always, if you have questions, you can drop them in the comment section. Or if you're a customer, you can always give me a call or shoot me an email and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. So we are going to have our judge output polarity as on at OK. So that means if the camera takes an image and the inspection is good, we'll get an on signal for the judge output. if there's an error on the camera, the error output will turn on. We're going to have handshaking on so that we ask for results and then the camera gives us those results. I've got a standard timeout set, and for the result data that I have set up, we're just using 32 bytes of data. This can be changed. It just means that we have to use some different structures or portions of a structure. We do not need the user area for this particular application. So that should be everything here set up proper. I believe this is all default, but just in case yours isn't, this will give you something to follow. So again, we're going to close, and again, data save. I know this is very time consuming, and we have to restart the camera multiple times, but just for the initial setup, once that's done, we should be okay. So then we're going to go and do a system restart again. And once this reboots, we'll be back. Okay guys, so camera has restarted yet again, and I've restarted the software tool. So what I did was I went ahead and set up a scene with a shape search 3 tool, and then I added the result output tool as well, but I haven't configured this yet. Before we do that, I'm gonna have to go ahead and add some variables and then link those variables to some of the parameters in the shape search tool. So for instance, correlation, position X, Y, and angle. So we'll set up 4 of those. So you're going to go ahead and click Tool, then TDM Editor. Under the tab here, Scene Variable. And we're going to go ahead and click the green plus button to add. So we're going to go pause X, and this will be a double. So hopefully you guys have familiarity with data types and what each of these mean. And we're going to add an angle. And last but not least, we'll add correlation. Okay, so we've got 4 variables added to the TDM editor. Okay, so we can go ahead and go back to the edit flow. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the Shape Search 3 tool, and over here we're going to click the Set and open the Unit Setting UI. So what we want to do here is make sure that this variable assignment is clicked. That way we can actually assign the variables that we set up, the output parameters, in the TDM editor. So first we see here we have correlation. So if we click the 3 dot button here and we choose correlation, we click OK. Position X, pause X, position Y, pause Y, and angle. So now we have our variables set to output parameters from the Shape Search Tool 3. Click OK. And then we can close the TDM editor. So this portion is complete. Okay, so the next step here is to set up the actual result output tool. So if we just click here to open this tool, and it's taking mine forever. Okay, so there's a few options here. Obviously we're going to select field bus because that's what Ethernet IP is. And we're going to go to output data. So we're going to click the insert button. The data type here has to match the data type that we set up in the TDM editor, which they were all doubles. Then we're going to click this button here to show us a list of variables that we have set up. Just going to go and click OK, and then click OK. Then we're going to ensure you click down here to number 1, otherwise it'll insert it above. It just depends on how you choose to have it set up. Next we're going to click insert, double, set up the Y, set the angle, and you can see here what that did, right? So we got, okay, so we can move it up. That's pretty easy. Insert next is our correlation. Click OK. And then you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4 doubles that are set up in our mapping. And then we're just going to click OK. Okay, so now that we have everything set up on the camera side, we're going to switch gears and move over to Sysmac Studio and set up this side of things. So first you're going to need to go and create a new project using whichever Mac you have. For this example, I'm using an NJ301. So we're going to go into Configurations and Setup, Controller Setup, and then double-click the built-in Ethernet IP port settings. So this IP address has to be in the same range as our camera in order to communicate. So I don't know if you noticed, but this 250 range isn't the range that the camera was in that I had set up. So let's go back over here just to revisit. System settings and Ethernet normal UDP. And the way the software works with an FHV7, the address setting 2 is always the Ethernet IP port setting for the FHV7. So we're in the 192.168.1.1 to 256 range, or 255, sorry. So I know that I previously had set up my PLC as 1.3, which is in that range. Okay? Okay, so the next thing we have to do is go and create some global variables. And global variables can be accessed by a device outside of the Mac. All Ethernet IP tags have to be created as global variables. So let's just close this so we can start. Under Programming, Data, Global Variables, click in here, and we are going to create a new variable by right-clicking and click Create New. Okay? So something that describes the function. So let's say from FHV7. Okay? And the data type that we're going to use is a DT from FHV7 without user. So the reason I'm choosing this is because we chose in here to have our result data format as 32 bytes. And there's 4 different that we can choose from. So this is the nomenclature is RDF0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So we're going to choose RDF0, and we did it without user. So that's our first one. Okay, so we're not gonna worry ourselves with initial value, the at, retain, or constant. However, one thing that we do need is to publish. And because this variable is coming from the camera into the Mac, it needs to be published to input. Okay, so we have our from FHV7. So now we have to create our to FHV7. Now you can name these however you'd like. This is the easiest for me, I find. And then DT FHV7 to camera without user. Okay, and again, Not concerning ourselves with the initial value, the at, retain, or constant, but our network publish, because this is going to the camera from the Mac, it must be an output. Okay guys, so just a little aside here. If you are taking the example project, which if you're doing this tutorial you should have, otherwise it's going to be very difficult to do this. But if you want to take these function blocks and put them into an existing project and not use the example, which may be the case, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to copy all these. Make sure you copy with dependents, each of them, and paste them in. What that'll do is it'll take any specific data types and carry it over. And then you're also going to need to copy all of the structures and paste them into your project. Otherwise, you won't have the proper variables to set up your Ethernet IP tags. Okay, so just make sure that that's a step that you follow. And if there's any issues, drop a comment. And obviously, if you're an existing customer, reach out through email or just give me a call or a text. Okay, so now we're going to go over and set up our Ethernet IP configuration. So, Tools, Ethernet IP connection settings. You're going to want to find the Ethernet IP port that you're using for this network. Some have two, most I believe have one. You're going to right click it and then click Edit. So, neat trick here is under the tag set portion, we're going to right click and then click Register All Tag Sets. So it shows our from FH and our to FH. Okay? And click Register. So you can see we've got our input and we've got our output. Now in the toolbox on the right side here, you can see there's nothing here yet. So we're going to go ahead and press Add a Target Device. We're going to type in our IP address, which is definitely not 196. It is 192.168.1 dot 100, if I remember correctly, and FHV7 revision 1, and then click Add. Okay, so now we're showing up over here. Okay, so now that that's added, we're going to go and double check just a couple of things just to ensure that it is set up correctly. So go ahead and right click on your FHV7 and then click Edit. I'm just going to pull this open a little bit more here. So we're only using line 0. So we're only concerned with the input and the output size. And we want to make sure that this input size here matches the size over here, which it does. And then double check our output. Okay? So that looks good. So next we can just go ahead and click OK. The next section, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to set up that connection between these devices. So click on the connection tab, and then we're going to hit the plus button. Right here we're going to choose the target device. We only have one. Okay? The target variable. Now, you can type things in here, but it's not going to do anything. What you want to do is hold the control button and hit space, and then it shows you a list of the assemblies that we can choose from. We're going to choose assembly 101. Then we have a drop down box here. We're going to choose the from. It automatically populates the size. Down here we're going to do again control space, It gives us a list, and you can look these up in most of the manuals for almost any device. It'll show what these mean. These are in the specific manual for Ethernet IP communication for the FHV7. Again, for the output, we're going to choose 2, and it auto-populates. Okay, guys, so just a couple of quick notes here before we move on and get to doing some testing. There's a connection type here. It's already set to multicast, but I'm going to change it to point-to-point. Multicast can create a lot more traffic maybe than you really want on a network such as this. There are situations where you're going to need to use multicast, but for this particular example, point-to-point should be suffice. And then the second is the RPI. So we're at 50 milliseconds. I've tested on 50 milliseconds and it seems okay. If you see that you're dropping data, you may need to decrease this. If your device has a rate that's faster than this, then your Mac may miss changes in signals or data from the device, and that's any device, not just an FHV7. Okay. Okay, so now that we have everything set up on our PLC side and our camera side, we're going to go ahead and go online. Okay. And we're going to synchronize and transfer to the controller. Okay. So that transfers the program and the function blocks and whatnot. What it doesn't do is it doesn't actually transfer our Ethernet IP connection settings. So we need to go back there. So again, Tools, Ethernet IP connection settings. You can either edit or double click and it brings you to here. So we're going to transfer this to the controller, okay? And you can do this while you're in run mode or in program mode. I prefer to do it in run mode so I don't actually shut the PLC down, the processing, but it depends on what your status is of your machine and that sort of thing. Okay, so that's done. So now what we're going to do, I'm just going to X out so we can make sure you guys know where to go. We're going to go Tools, Ethernet IP connection settings, and then we're going to right click here and then go Monitor. And what you want to see is you want to see this node 100, which is our camera, as blue. If it is red for any reason, then you have an issue. And normally if this is red, your error alarm over in the controller status on the bottom right, you'll likely be red there, and what you'll have to do is open the troubleshooting tool to see what the error is and then go from there. Hopefully that's not the case, but it does happen. So if it does, try and work through it as best you can. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, drop a comment, or again, if you're a customer, shoot me an email, text, give me a call. We're always here to help, okay? Okay, guys, so that wraps up this tutorial. Now there's obviously a lot more involved here in terms of what you have to do to set this up. Not necessarily set it up, I guess, but to control the camera from the program. And that's going to be a matter of dropping in these function blocks. One thing I can show you, just as a quick test here, you can see we're at 75 milliseconds for trigger time on the last trigger. So I'm just going to go ahead and trigger the camera in hopes that that trigger time will change. There you go. So you can see it's slightly changed, and we can pull up the watch window here. And we can see that we're receiving data. that data is coming in as a byte value, and then that's why we have the data convert function. So you can change it into an integer or a double. It's not set up specifically for a double because the data type can be different. You can set it up how you want. So that way you can do a conversion and dump that into maybe a user-defined type that you wish to create. Okay, so again, any questions, drop a line in the comments, or again, if you're a customer, email, text, give me a call. Anytime. I'm pretty much always available. Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and stay safe out there.